Raffy Tulfo na pagtawanan matapos magkalituhan sa Senado. Dapat malaman ng mga kritiko sa pagdiriwang ng kaarawan ni Senador Sani Angara na ang kawang-gawa ang nagtulak sa mga opisyal ng gobyerno sa isang gabi ng party noong Sabado sa Manila Polo Club. Sinakta ni Senator Raffy Tulfo ang mga kritiko ng Killjoy sa birthday party ni Senator Sani Angara na sinasabing ito ay para sa kawang-gawa. Ang mga kritiko ay nagreklamo na habang ang mga politiko ay nakikibahagi, ang mga Pilipino ay nahaharap sa inflation at iba pang mga problema sa socio-economic. Sa isang press conference sa Senado, tinanong si Tulfo kung ano ang naramdaman niya sa mga komentong umaatake sa kanya at sa mga opisyal ng gobyerno na dumalo sa 50th birthday party ni Angara. Samantala, nauwi sa katatawanan ang naging pagdinig kahapon sa Senado matapos malito si Senator Tulfo.
On Senator Pimentel's suggestion, this is actually part of the EPIRA reform that the Congress provided for Mr. Senator, but we can continue to adjust that. As to VAT, this is again a congressional decision as implemented by the Bureau of Internal Revenue, a tax on excise tax, a tax on systems losses, a tax on subsidies. And we would have to be guided by you if we dispense with this, because that means also lesser tax collection to support the national budget. So it's really a case of balancing, and we would like to work with you to address this.
Thank you very much for that very brief, and I like that answer, Secretary Lutilla.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I would like to recognize Senator P. Antiveros.
That's my sister, Mr. Chairman.
Ay, sorry. Lisa, I apologize.
Okay lang po, bilang
Take
si
that out of
Chair
the record.
ay dating batikang broadcaster din.
Baka nakita ko ni Mr. Chairman, kaya
okay.
naghalo yung pangalan natin.
Yes. All right.
Either that's
I saw.
Senpia or
Senator Pia.
naalala ni Chair yung kanilang dating colleague sa broadcasting, ang kapatid.
I apologize for that.
Tukayo ni Senpia. Okay lang po, Chair. One more question for the good secretary. Napaka-interesante yung isang sinabi nyo na one reason that manufacturing has declined in the Philippines ay dahil sinasalamin dito sa production cost, yung true cost of power. At bagamat sinabi nyo rin na we cannot subsidize that cost to manufacturing, pero lalo na, well, kami sa Kongreso, iniintay pa namin yung economic roadmap ng administrasyon out of the pandemic at yung mga economic impacts ng pandemic. Pero hindi kaya itong tug-of-war between, in a sense, between manufacturing and cost of power, medyo something's got to give na. I'm curious kung may pag-uusap na po between DOE and say DTI kung papaano, short of subsidizing the power cost to manufacturing, kung papaano, ayun, mapagaan yung force of gravity on manufacturing, at least as can be traced to yung cost of power. Kung may thoughts po ang good secretary tungkol dyan. Salamat, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead,
Thank
Mr.
you,
Secretary, please answer.
Thank you, Senator. Well, definitely, as I've said, subsidy is out because it's the rich who consume more power, and therefore, if we subsidize, we will subsidize more of the rich consumption. But we are for the targeted assistance, the well-targeted assistance, and your brother, Mr. Chair, is the one who is in charge, of course, of the conditional cash transfers. That's the one that is supported by any windfall tax collections from the energy sector. Because the VAT is a percentage tax, the collection increases with also increases in the power and fuel sectors of the country. So as far as balancing, yes, we need to address the industry's needs, and definitely one way of doing that is to open up renewable, for example, to 100% foreign ownership so that foreign locators can actually also develop their own sources of power. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you,
Salamat po.
Secretary.
Chairman. Mr. Chairman.
Senator Angara is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have any statement or questions for my former constitutional law professor, Secretary Lutilla. Good morning, sir. I just want to request from the department, Mr. Chairman, two things. The first is the renewable energy law is about 15 years old. I passed it during my second term as a congressman. I'd just like to know how much capacity or how many plants have we built since the law was passed for RE sources of energy. And secondly, since EPIRA is also about maybe 2 decades old, how much progress have we made in terms of capacity generated and cost of electricity? So supply and cost. Yun lang ang request ko kay Secretary when he can give that information to us, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Senator Angara, thank you. Secretary Lutilla would like to answer that, please.
Yeah, Chair, we will submit the details that Senator Angara is asking for, because we did have more capacity come in after the RE law was passed. And since EPIRA was introduced, we've had a doubling of installed capacity. So in terms of, and this is without any expense on the part of government, because otherwise government would have had to pay for this expansion of transmission as well as new power plants. That went instead into supporting the national budget. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Senator Lutilla. Senator Pia Cayetano is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This will just be very short. I'd like to greet my professor also, Secretary Lutilla. I have worked with him a number of times, and I'm very hopeful that he will be instrumental in addressing the concerns that we have. Mr. Chairman, as you know, I am the chair of the Committee on Sustainable Development Goals, Innovation and Futures Thinking. So I joined Senator JV Ercito in his question and statement regarding the future, the master plan for the future. My particular goal, and I leave it also, I would love to work with the committee on this, is to future-proof the energy sector. I don't know, because the secretary obviously has just gotten on board, so I don't know if if his team would already have such a document, if that even existed in the past. So maybe just a quick response. If this is something that we still have to work on, then our committee would also like to work with this committee on that end, on the future proofing, because there's no matter what we say, there will always be this tug of war between the need to address the current need versus the future need. So that's where I'm volunteering the committee as well to assist in the overseeing of this future plan. And the second point I'd like to raise, and just requires a quick response from the secretary, is to ensure that his team is following our commitments under the SDGs. I would imagine that we should even improve those commitments, because the global commitments, let me just quickly put this on record, Your Honors. Our goals under SDG 7, which is affordable and clean energy, is to ensure access to affordable, reliable, and sustainable and modern energy for all. And specifically, those goals are targeted for 2030, because that's the timeline of the SDG. So that's less than 8 years. 7.1 is to ensure universal access to affordable, reliable, and modern energy. 7.2 is to increase substantially the share of renewable energy in the global energy mix. So again, it might be too early for the secretary to tell us, but maybe even just an idea of what his he perceives that energy mix to be and how we shift that slowly to renewables. 7.3 is to double the global rate of improvement in energy efficiency. And we were talking, I heard discussions earlier, was monitoring, even though I wasn't online. I was monitoring through YouTube. There was already discussions on this. No? And then the next 7.A is by 2030, enhancing international cooperation to facilitate access to clean energy research and technology. So also that one, what are we doing about it? No? My objective as your SDG chair is to tie in all of this. So what are we doing in terms of research, working with DOST on our own innovations? 7.B, and this is the last point, expand infrastructure and upgrade technology for supplying modern and sustainable energy. And I think that's the bill of Senator JV, which, as I said, I support. So maybe a quick reply lang, Mr. Chairman, from our secretary. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Pia Cayetano. Mr. Secretary, would you like to reply to that?
Mr. Chair, we fully support the efforts of Senator Cayetano to achieve SDG, Sustainable Goal number 7, and particularly in relation to SDG number 1, which is to alleviate poverty. Our energy goals must be designed in order to lift our people from poverty.
Para naman sa inyo, ano naman ang masasabi nyo tungkol dito? Magkomento lamang sa baba at huwag kalimutang mag-subscribe para updated ka sa mga maiinit na balita sa Pilipinas. Maraming salamat sa panonood.